So, hello everybody, welcome to this session. We are going to talk about UX designers, developers, collaboration, anti-patterns. And first of all, I want to thank Box Day Ticino for inviting me here. I am honored to be here. And also I want to say this is my first public speech in English, so forgive me if you will hear any kind of mistakes or hesitation. I introduce myself. I'm Antonio Dell'Ava. I work as a front-end developer for Flowing. Flowing is a consulting company, and from this July is part of Claranet family, as you can see. I'm a front-end developer, but my background is in interaction design, and in my free time, as you can see, I'm a gravel cyclist. So a quick overview of this work. We start with why, as always. Then we will see the definition of anti-pattern, and then our three anti-patterns. Finally, some books in order to go deeper in these topics, questions, and finally greetings. So, why collaboration is important? In the end, I can say I don't care. I'm a developer or a designer. I just care about doing the best code or the best design possible. And it looks fair or not. It looks fair. But one step back, what does user experience really mean? User experience includes all the aspects of the interaction between the end user with the company, its service, and its products. This definition comes from Nielsen and Norman Group. And as you can see, UX is something systemic, okay? This means the developer's work is part of the UX, okay? Vice versa, UX design means also making decisions that impact the code. So it's chained, okay? We cannot split them. So we are like players in a team, and for a team, the goal is to win, okay? The performance of the area, the defenders, the mid players, whatever, are important as long as they contribute to the victory, okay? Everyone should do that, okay? Personal metrics, department metrics are important as long as they contribute to the victory, okay? Alone are not enough. Having 100% code coverage or design a UI that win a design award is like winning the top scorer prize and losing the World Cup. It's just pointless, okay? We have, for example, here, we are in Switzerland, so we should be neutral. We represent all the top 4 teams in Europe, so Italy, Germany, England, and France. Yeah, all the same, okay? Win the top scorer, losing the World Cup. The problem is, there is no standard method, okay? There is no checklist, a recipe, something you could just do, and the collaboration magically becomes great, okay? The issue is more about developing a sharing understanding on the problems and decide, adapt to the context. So, in this case, is putting together the problems is much more important than knowing a lot about methodologies, technologies, information, whatever. It's much more important to be a team, feeling the problem together. And so there is no standard recipe, but at least we can avoid the recipes that almost always leads us to fail. Okay, we can avoid the most common anti-patterns, and this is this talk objectives. We will give just a quick definition of an anti-pattern. Probably you are familiar with the definition of design pattern that comes from Christopher Alexander. A design pattern, as you probably know, is a design solution to a recurring problem, and at the opposite, an anti-pattern is a common response to a recurring problem that is usually ineffective and risks being highly counterproductive. The definition is from Wikipedia. So we are here at our anti-pattern. And the first anti-pattern is the assembly line anti-pattern. In the assembly line anti-pattern, we have not one team, but two teams. The UX team and development teams are splitted. And not only the teams, also the work is splitted. So, and maybe the two teams are also proficient. So we have an UX team that is great. So doing UX research, interviews, analysis, user persona prototyping, UI testing, whatever. But after this moment, disappears and delivers a document output, and all the collaboration on the work is mediated by this documentation, and then the development team starts, and the development team also maybe working with in an agile way, so with user stories, agile testimonies, clean code, DevOps, whatever, and then they release its own output. And usually this is in combo with a product owner or an ownership that is more focused on the outputs and not on the outcomes. And this is just trying to apply the industrial patterns to our world. Is Taylorism, okay? Is like just to try to split a complex process into more simple one and try to, in order to better manage them, okay? But it's wrong. It's completely wrong. It leads to a poor result. First, because it leads us to not be focused on the outcomes and to the systemic value, as Jacopo said in his session. And also, it's not possible to anticipate. For this reason, it's not possible to anticipate technical issues during the UI phase, and also we are not able to adapt during the development. Maybe we have to change direction on design something more, or something should be reduced by the scope, something like that. And I have a case history to make it clear. Some years ago, I was in a team, and as I said, I work in a consulting company. So we were in charge to build a hybrid mobile application with Ionic. And our customer was a startup, and another external company was in charge to be the UX. The problem was that they designed the entire system at the very detail level. Okay, everything. Okay, user search, personas, everything. And when we finally started development, after a couple of weeks, the startup pivoted its business. Everything changed. And at this point, okay, some features were not useful anymore, and new features were needed, obviously. And that means that there was a giant amount of waste, and in the end, the developers, in this case me, I had to design with my skills the new designs of the application. So in the end, the result was very poor, okay, compared to the initial investment. And obviously, all of this happened when the external company had left the project, so they couldn't do nothing, okay, to help us in order to improve. And this is a perfect example of this anti-pattern. So, golden rules. The developers design a collaboration phase where the design team is present only at the beginning of the project and then disappears. Okay. So, three simple hints to avoid this anti-pattern. Number one rule, cross-functional team. So the UX designers and developers should work together from the moment one, okay, from the beginning, okay, and collaborate, stay together, okay, share the ceremonies, the everything, the retrospecting, and this is one. Second, stay focused on the outcomes, okay. Decide a North Star metric like the sales per month, new users per month, something like that. That is, a good metric of the growth of the company. And then try to understand the department area metrics from that. Okay, code coverage is important if the bugs is something that is a problem to attract more user or new sales. Okay, and adapt this area metric to the North Star metric, and also remove as much as possible the political constraints. Okay, we know we work in a world where maybe there is a company in charge of doing the development, another one in charge to do the UX, but try to work as one team. Okay, also try to adapt the contracts to that. Okay, in the end, it's for everyone, it's better to do that. So it's an opportunity. But more important, we should shift from an assembly line mindset to an exploratory journey mindset. So treat the process, our process, the development process, like an exploratory journey. So something you don't know in advance, and the team should together and repeatedly goes from understanding what is valuable, and then managing the technical risk and deliver valuable solutions. So when I say understanding what is valuable, I mean empathizing with the user, doing UX research, define models, and then ideate new concept. And when I say managing technical risk, I say prototyping, testing the prototypes, and then delivery code and measuring the results. And with small step of exploration and delivery, and do that regularly, again and again and again. But to be more concrete, when you should involve developers in the design process, okay? We spoke about that, but in concrete, what we have to do. First of all, the developers are really helpful in the design research phase, okay? It's very important that developers are involved there because they can ask a lot of questions about the user, and so the user research can be more focused and in the end more effective and more maybe short, okay? More efficient, okay? They can ask stuff like what kind of internet connection the user has, what kind of tools they have, something more strictly related with the technologies, and something they know better than the designers, and they can be very helpful. And also, if they are involved, they can feel the UX research like something they have ownership on that, okay? And also, the developers are, from my point of view, should be involved also in generating new ideas, content generation, because technology is not just something that it's helpful to do what we ideate. It's a source of inspiration, okay? The Tinkerit method from MIT is like that, okay? Using technology freely in order to discover new things, okay? Also, by involving developers in the design process, we can anticipate a lot of technical issues. Also, if we have deadlines, constraints, we can adapt the design in order to meet these constraints in advance without arriving when we already started and try to adapt the stuff. Also, the designers are very helpful when we code, because in every project there are problems that arise during the development phase, so something that should be adapted. So with the help of the designer, we can easily adapt the UI solution. And also, you're probably familiar with the user story format. So as a registered user, I want to post a new photo so that my followers can put like, I don't know. Each user story is not something already defined. Otherwise, we work in a waterfall split in user stories. Okay, it's a promise of conversation. It's something that is not already defined completely. And every time something is changed from the time we wrote the user story. So we need at the beginning a little amount of time of rediscover the user story. And this small kickoff is perfect when you do that with the UX designer. So stay together in a Google Meet, whatever, and talk about again why this feature is valuable, why we have designed it like that. Is still the best solution. We can change a little bit. We can provide the same value with less effort, something like that. It's always valuable. Also, we expect the designers lead the design system generation process, and in general, we expect they be the users' voices always. Okay. I hope I get the point across. The second anti-pattern is the Groundhog Day. If you don't know, the Groundhog Day, it's an American movie where the main character becomes trapped in a time loop. So he relives again and again the same day, the bad day, the Groundhog Day. And we have this pattern not when the time is splitting like before. So maybe this time we have a cross-functional team, so works well in a iterative, small step, incremental, agile, whatever. But there are two problems. First, the definition of UX, it's always expensive. And also it's always frustrating because every time we speak about how we should do a button, if the button should be with the icon of the label, just the icon, just the label, if our process should be done with the models or with the widgets, stuff like that. Okay, so it's very expensive, bloody, okay, a lot of conflicts. And the results are poor because each milestone is just a mutant bastard son. Doesn't reflect completely the UX we have defined before. The UI is always poor. We don't understand really why. And 5 years ago, maybe 6, I was in this kind of project. It was a huge single-page application, and let me say, the team was really great. A lot of people that you can find also like a speaker in this kind of conference. Okay, very experienced, and the team was working in a cross-functional, agile, lean, whatever. Okay, but unconsciously, Smython follow it a slightly different principle. And it weren't the principle weren't written. And again, we discussed the interface with different results. And in the end, we had many similar UI components solving more or less the same problems. Okay. And we know, you probably know, the answer to this anti-pattern. It's quite simple, is having a design system. But what you probably don't know is that having a design system doesn't exactly mean just having a pattern library. Okay, it's much more complex. Having a pattern library is just the result of a long process that the whole team should do together. Okay, and I want to to say something about that because I really care about this topic, and I want to say something about how to improve your design system process by by using design principles, doing interface inventory, and using parameters and rules. Design principles are like grammar rules in a language where the words are the UI design patterns. So usually design principles are 3-5 sentences that give the team a specific design orientation. So they keep the design consistent. One concept to keep in mind is that design principles are not just concepts, okay? Clarity is a bad example. Why? Because clarity is something always true. Whoever wants a design system that's not clear, okay? It's impossible. It's just impossible. A good design principle gives the team a direction. So, for example, direction of choice. It's one of the Medium, the famous blogging platform, design principle. And it means that in Medium, we want just one font, one color palette, one layout. We don't want that the user can choose the font, the color, whatever. It's just a direction we want to give to the project. And the correctness test is that the opposite of this principle may be valid for another design system. If the answer is yes, the design principle is good. Okay. The second exercise, good in order to improve your design system and avoid the groundhog, the anti-pattern, is the interface inventory. Interface inventory is a practice defined by Brad Frost in a famous blog post some years ago. And it's an inventory, about the UI. So a summary about how to do that. You should start by screenshotting all the pages of your application, and then from the screenshot of the pages, screenshotting the components, the UI components, and then defining UI categories like the speakers, action bar, buttons, and so on, and then grouping similar screenshot into the right category. At this point, you should have something like on the right in the example. Obviously, this example is only about the speakers, okay? At this point, start to magic. You should try to ask yourself, I want these two screenshots merge in a unique design patterns. You should do that if I change the first, also the second should change. So this is the question you should ask to yourself. If the answer is yes, there are one design pattern so you can merge the two screenshots in one UI component. And this is the way in order to rationalize UI design pattern. And also something that can be helpful is think about if your design system should be strict or loose. So strict means each UI design pattern is coupled with rules. So what you should do or not do with this pattern. Or loose. So without rules, the principles are enough. Usually, big teams like Airbnb prefer to add rules. Small teams like small companies, startup prefer to be loose because it's easy to decide and create a company culture about the design system. You don't have so much knowledge to need that. Also, you should reflect about if the design system should be modular or integrated. Modular means small pieces, so small UI user component, and this means obviously more usable but less specific. Integrated means be more specific and less reusable. Okay. And finally, as a result, there is the pattern library. And having a good pattern library is really game-changing. So it's like a Lego set, a vocabulary. So when you have a pattern library and design principle, designing each milestone is really easier. So it's just taking the pieces of the Lego and this with this, and that's what we have to do. It's really easy. And that's it. The last anti-pattern is lost in translation. And lost in translation anti-pattern is about prototypes. As you probably know, prototypes are a sort of lingua franca. So everyone can discuss about a prototype, UX designer, developers, stakeholders, product owner. And this is good because prototypes are a driver of discussion and very valuable usually. The problem is that they contain a lot of implicit information, and this can create a lot of operational misunderstanding, because if you think if this implicit information is not explicit, you can think one thing and I think another thing, okay? And this implicit information is usually about what the prototype, what is the level of fidelity, who is the recipient. Last case history. Just 2 time ago, I worked in a very early stage startup, and like in the first example, we were the developers and another consultancy company was in charge to do the UX, but we worked as a cross-functional team, so we managed the first anti-pattern. And the UX designers did a really great prototype in order to present the idea to the investors. And in the end, the investor financed the idea. So they did a great job from my point of view. The problem was that the same prototype was used to discuss the estimation and planning of minimum viable product without thinking too much if the prototype was suitable or not, if we had to change, do something new. We simply didn't think, okay? And it was clear for the designer that everything had to be pixel perfect, so like in the prototype, in the Figma, okay? But the developers assumed, without saying that, this could not be the case. It's super complicated. The deadline is too strict. Okay, we cannot do that. We have to use something like Bulma, Bootstrap, stuff like that, and maybe adding some our CSS, our feature. But okay, starting from something that it's already done. And also, it was unclear for the startup's partner that the UI details close these deadline problems. And we had a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of ineffective decision and action in the first month. In the end, the problems, we understood the problems and we fixed that, but this error caused a lot of waste. So, to avoid that, so you should keep in mind that each prototype is very specific. It's designed for a recipient, a fidelity level, and each prototype is just a part of the entire system. So if the prototype is helpful in one particular purpose, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is for another. You should keep in mind internal prototype are good for planning, estimating, generating options, create a shared vision, but on the other hand, there are the prototypes that are good for external stakeholders, like presenting, selling, testing, receiving the feedback, and what this is good for one goal is not good for the other one. Also, we have low fidelity prototype like simple sketch that are good for generating option, refine option, brainstorming, decide the direction, but are not good for the goals that are good for the goals that are supported from the high fidelity prototype. Okay, and also keep in mind is each prototype is something that is providing just a part of the entire system. So this triangle is a schema that it comes from Udemy fields. So just keep in mind we can have prototypes that are focused on implementation, so proof of concept, prototypes that are focused on look and feel, so how the user can interact, and other prototypes that are focused in explaining what is the rule of the of your system, so how the system can solve the problems of the user. An example of that are wireframes is the most common one. This is an example of how we should refer to prototypes. So we are making an high-fidelity look and feel prototype for internal use to make an estimate of the next release. Okay, Strazzullo stole my slide. If you recognize that slide is something that Francesco showed in the this morning. This exercise is the Pareto-Ladler is something very helpful to point out something that is always between the lines. So decide what is a constraint and so what we cannot change and what is a lever. So where we can flexible. So in this example, budget and quality is something we cannot change. We have to accept that the budget is that we want a high quality, but we can reduce the scope, so we delete user story from the backlog and move the lines. So it's something very helpful to make it clear what is a constraint. So in the previous history that I told you before, would be something helpful. Finally, books in order to study more about these topics. About the first anti-pattern, I can suggest the Decision Making for Software Development Teams by Francesco Strazzullo. You met him this morning. And in particular, the chapter number 5 that I personally wrote. Also, Startup, Scale Up, Screw Up by Jürgen Appel. For the second anti-pattern, I can suggest this is a masterpiece from my point of view, Design System by Alla Kulmatova. For the third anti-pattern, I suggest you What the Prototypes by Stephanie Hood and Charles Hill. This is not a book, but it's an academic paper. Quite old, but still good. Okay. Other books in order to improve your knowledge. Agile Estimating and Planning by Mike Cohen. Estimation and planning is something always critical. Thanks for the feedback by Douglasson and Sheila Hill. This is more about developing a learning organization. Decision Making for Dummies by Donna Jones and Going Horizontal are both about decision making. And finally, I have this one, Extreme Combat Contract from that guy. Okay. I added there that one because we said that the contract agreements can be a constraint, but as always, a constraint is something that can be bad or something that leads us to a good behavior. And this book helps you to design a good constraint that leads you to a good collaboration. Questions? Thank you.